Riot Games has taken the gaming industry by storm, developing the likes of League of Legends and Valorant. We talk about building a strong Filipino fan base with the country manager, Joel Guzman. Joel, great to have you on the program. The last time was during the pandemic.
Yes. It's good
when
to
we
be back
saw
here.
exponential growth in the Philippine market by leaps and bounds. You know what? I hear about Valorant, League of Legends, and Wild Rift only from my son. He just keeps talking about it. What kind of growth are we seeing for Riot Games in the Philippines?
Sure, definitely. I can talk a lot more in holistic sense. So from a game standpoint, if you look at Valorant, there are around 14 million monthly active users for Valorant globally. And the Philippines is actually one of the most passionate and one of actually the bigger number in terms of that 14 million global share, right? If you look at esports as a whole, viewership, last year, VCT Challengers 2022, we peaked at around 1.5 million viewership. That was a 34% increase year on year from our 2021 figure. And if you look at the fandom here in the Philippines, we just had an event over the weekend and we actually filled up our booth and we had 15,000 registrants and attendees during on our booth during the weekend.
Massive.
Which is 50% over than our last year's ESGS attendance as well. So,
what is the demographics of those who play Valorant, League of Legends, and Wild Rift? Are they mostly Gen Zs, millennials, or guys like myself, the baby boomers?
50% would belong to the Gen Z. Around 30% would belong to around my age, around the Gen. I was born in 1989.
Gen X.
Yeah, Gen X, and of course the 20% are actually surprisingly from the older demographic. But what's also good to state is that 50% of our player base are actually female. Yeah.
Wow,
Yes.
female.
Yes.
50-50.
Yes.
There's gender equality
Yes.
when it comes to playing the games.
There is.
You mentioned about the massive growth of Valorant. What about League of Legends and Wild Rift?
League of Legends really great in terms of we have 20 million in terms of global monthly active users. In terms of the rankings, in terms of Philippines, we're actually one of the top as well. While I can't disclose exact figures, League of Legends Wild Rift is one of the really popular games from a MOBA standpoint here in the Philippines.
Are we expecting more games from Riot Games apart from these three very popular e-games?
Definitely. So we're verging on into a fighting game very soon. So it's called Project L. I can't say when is the exact date we'll release that, but
Make
that's
the announcement
very
here
soon.
on the final word.
For sure. Yeah. So once I have word, definitely.
But we are already seeing a lot of competitions for the likes of Valorant and League of Legends. How is your group supporting the development of Filipino esports athletes?
We have a lot of local teams who really are amazing, by the way. So we have Team Secret, who is representing us for Valorant and VCT. They're actually the only team to beat the top seed, which is DRX in Korea. And they were able to make it to the playoffs in the VCT Pacific this year. We have Team Seaball for Wild Rift, who actually won gold for SEA Games just this year. And we also have Naos Esports, who is actually now representing us in an exhibition called Ascension. In the next few weeks, and when Ascension is actually the winner of Ascension will represent us globally for VCT Pacific next year. So it's going to be an amazing run for Filipino teams. And I think the success factor is really because Filipinos they're used to a high level of play, very high octane, high energy, very energetic, and actually surprised a lot of people from around the globe.
But I'm just really curious, Joel, how do you train these esports athletes?
So it really depends on the organizers or the esports organizations. So from what we know, they do a lot of boot camps. So they wake up at 8 a.m. It's sort of like a sports, like basically like what you see on tennis, what you see on basketball across the globe. Wake up at 8 a.m., you eat, you practice, you scrim with your friends, you scrim with a lot of people from around the globe. You eat, you do some exercises, physical exercise as well, because that's also very important. You do another scrim at the evening and then you sleep and then you repeat. So that's the whole rigor. That's just basically how we're built for esports.
How you build these esports athletes and to play these games, no? But of course, Joel, we all know that there are also risks when kids, as you say, most of them are millennials or Gen Zs, when they enter the esports arena. And kids, instead of studying and finishing a university course, they just want to play online games.
Yes.
how can we mitigate this?
So one of the risks, as I've been talking to you earlier a while ago, is basically when it comes to esports players, the retirement age is very, very young. People retire from 25 to 29. And whilst some of the people actually...
Why 25 to 29?
Because
of
the
retirable
motor skills. If you look at the hand-eye coordination of a 30-year-old person versus a 16-year-old person, 16-year-old, 9 out of 10 times will always win because they have more hand-eye coordination skills compared to the older demographic. And it's because of that while some of these people who retire actually have a good foundation in terms of going to the esports industry, maybe as a back-end worker or as a coach, not a lot of the people in the esports would actually have that opportunity. That's why it's imperative for me to say that proper balance is the key. It's always good to play hard, to practice hard, but good education is always really good to cover all bases.
But can these esports athletes up until 25 or 29 make this a living? Can they earn from it?
For sure, for sure. As I mentioned, a lot of people actually develop from being a player to being a coach, or to being in the back end, or to being in the gaming industry per se.
But also there are personal risks, no? I mean, when you play too often, you're just focused on the e-games, on your screens. There could be issues of mental health, addiction, match fixing, corruption, gambling. If they're not esports athletes, right?
Yes.
How can they be helped? How can this be mitigated?
I will always say proper balance is the key. I'm an adamant gamer myself, but I always kind of make a point to myself that I have to limit my game time because I have other things to do as well, right? So it's really proper balance. Gaming is any form of entertainment. It's like watching a Netflix series. So too much of a good thing is actually bad. So it's really about how you time manage yourself, properly manage your game hours per day, per week. And there's still other things to do out there, but my advice is proper balance. It's always the key.
Proper balance indeed. How supportive is Riot Games, and how often do you have activities for the local gaming community?
We do have communities, we do have activities monthly. So I think what makes campaigns locally truly hyper-local are in-game moments and out-of-game moments. So that's the role of the publishing team here in the Philippines, is to create this in-game and out-of-game activities. And for every product, for Valorant, for League of Legends, for Wild Rift, we have monthly activities from community tournaments. We have a lot of campaigns like the Taravalo campaign for Valorant. We just recently had a Summoner's Rave back then in February when we celebrated with a lot of the influencers for the celebration of League of Legends homecoming party here, going back home to the Philippines. So there's a lot of things that our fans can expect from us, and we're looking forward to really addressing and servicing the players here in the Philippines.
Riot Games Country Manager Joel Guzman, thank you so much for joining us on The Final Word, and all the best to Riot Games.